everyone, and welcome to God's Plan, Your Part, a podcast where our goal is to read the entire Bible in a year, seeking to understand God's plan of redemption while discovering daily and practically your part in it. Hey guys, here we are again in Isaiah. So we're in chapters 40 to 43 today. So we're leaving the historical piece and we're moving more into this like different kind of psalm feeling, prophetic. Here's some comfort for you in your time of despair when you are exiled to Babylon.
There are some clear breakdowns in how Isaiah is written. So yesterday, we were reading a lot of actual stories about what happened with like chapter 39 ending with Isaiah being frustrated with Hezekiah for showing the Babylonians around his kingdom.
Very narrative.
And it's very narrative driven.
Yes.
The next, I think, 10 or so chapters are kind of like proclamation, hope, comfort-driven passages,
style.
that are intended for the people that are in exile to look forward to a time where they will return from exile and ultimately a time where God will reign forever.
And what's interesting too is I was asking Ryan, because it says like this is only like a short time, and I guess it's short in comparison to like time span that like other events have been drawn out into, but this is like a 70-year time. Isn't that what you said earlier? 70 years that they'll be experiencing this exile and having this like encouraging comfort. Actually, I'd read somewhere that between chapters, 40 to 66, the word comfort, comforted, and comforts is mentioned like, like over
a bunch of times.
It was many times, which is unique. But it's like the Lord speaking through Isaiah, giving them hope for that terrible, awful time.
And that comes through clearly in chapters 40 to 43 today, because you hear the word comfort a lot. Just for context, because we're talking about the exile and how long it's going to last, we've been dealing with like 400 years of kings. And you could throw in the period of the judges before that. Like we've been dealing with hundreds of years, and the judgment and the exile is going to occur for 70 years. So you're talking like several lifetimes compared to a lifetime.
Right. Because if you think about it, like even when they left Egypt to the time where they actually like got to the promised land, that's a huge chunk of time. And this is like a fraction.
Correct. So the exile is going to happen. This is intended for those that are living in exile. Some folks that are going to be in exile that you would recognize would be like Jeremiah. Daniel is actually in Babylon. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in exile because of what's happening here in this judgment that occurs. So biblical history doesn't stop, and we'll be reading through those things. But the exile does not last extraordinarily long, and the people have a lot to look forward to when it has ended and when God has relented.
Well, I have a couple of just like random little pieces that I had picked up on that just like stuck out to me. Like these are encouraging little tidbits from the words that are given to the Israelite people before they're taken off into captivity or into, what's the word?
Exile.
Exile, there we go. So verse 17 in chapter 40 stuck out to me like right away. It says, all the nations are as nothing before him, and they are accounted by him as less than nothing and emptiness. So our study Bible, it makes a really good point. So as they're in exile, I'm sure their hope is going to be completely depleted. There's not going to be a lot of things that they're going to put their trust or hope in. But our Bible says, Israel may think that she could never overcome all the nations of mankind, but they are as nothing to God. So it reminds me even of just our own walk. Obviously, we're not in exile, but there are moments where it's like all your foes and all your troubles and all your sins that seem to overwhelm you and overcome you all the time. This is very similar to this same mindset that they may have had, where it's like, oh my gosh, there's no way we're going to get over this. There's no way we're going to overcome this. But God's like, hey, that's like nothing. Like, don't put any stock into that, because I'm God. I'm bigger than all that. And they're basically emptiness. They're less than nothing. So that's encouraging, and I guess a good thing to think about if you're feeling like you're just stuck.
It's actually probably one of my favorite parts of the reading today is chapter 40. I would love a conversation on this, or I'd be interested in what you're thinking, Jenny, and what our listeners are thinking, actually. When I hear about how meaningless the nations are
Yeah.
and how nothing our lives are, to me, and maybe I'm a strange person, to me, that's actually like oddly comforting to me because it's like, oh, God is so much more important and so much more powerful than anything I have going on in my life.
If you've ever seen one of those videos, I know back in the day, like when we first started like watching YouTube, there was this one video where it was like it took you like to this like the inside of like a cell and it zoomed the whole way out. Like you
Oh,
could see
yeah.
the person
Yeah.
that it came from, and then like this house that they were at, and then the country, and then it went all the way out into space. And it's just like it's crazy to think of how small your life is, and it went all the way back in again. But it was cool to be like, whoa, perspective on how big of a deal your problem feels. Like the God of the universe created you and all these things around you that you're like so unaware of, and to think that he can't do amazing things through you and like through the people around you is just ridiculous. And like that he's not big enough to overcome your problems is, I think it's humbling, and I think this verse really kind of hits home with that.
I think on the personal conversation side, Jenny and I have been talking, I think, quite a bit about kind of these dueling perspectives on like, do we mean everything to God, or do we mean nothing to God? And that I don't know if that's an interesting conversation to you or not, but it has really been causing me to think a lot.
Well, for us too, because it's like we think about our actions and things that we're struggling with, and like, oh my word, it just feels like everything in like it's magnified so much to us, but it's like such a small little drip into like this massive bucket of everything else.
And you can also find yourself in a church where they talk about how God moved the heaven and earth to have a relationship with you. You are so valuable and loved by God. He just wants to be your friend. And then you can find yourself in another church where it's like, you are sinful and wretched before God. You are nothing. And so you should fall on your face and worship him.
Yeah.
I enjoy both of those environments. They are wildly opposed views. And I think if you were going to push me on it, which I guess literally no one is pushing me because it's just a podcast.
Consider this pushing you.
I find a lot more comfort in knowing that I'm actually not crazy. I'm not nearly as important as God. The nations are not nearly as important as God. The heavens are not. The creation is not.
But how much of that like takes your focus from being a self-focused person to a God-focused person?
I do wonder if that is what's behind some of those ways of setting things up. Like you seem to be in a lot more self-focused environment when you just consistently hear about how valuable you are. I'm not against, like, I know that human life is valuable. We're creating God's image. He clearly loves us. I do think it shows a lot about your motivations and your core beliefs, and really how you see God. Like, it's like, are you accidentally worshiping yourself, or are you worshiping God?
So that's been an interesting, I don't know, conversation, I guess, between
Yeah,
you
and I haven't figured it out.
But it all comes back to this, where it's like, hey, that problem seems really significant, but ultimately our job is to like trust in the Lord that he is our savior. He's delivered us from like terrible, awful things, and we need to serve him. And like, if you're not doing those things, I think you're going to sense the tension. You're going to feel off. And either that or be, like you were saying, Ryan, very self-focused. If you're just going to consider your problems bigger than what God can do, like, it's
really unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So that's the thing that sticks out to me primarily from chapter 40. And that segment exists basically to tell the people, like, your goofy idols, the weird things that you choose to worship, God is bigger than all of them, created all of them, is in control of all of them. So we worship God, nothing else.
So what kind of your part can we put feet to based on that?
I guess it's tricky because I'm kind of inviting the conversation. So if you have a thought on this, like, leave a comment. Like, if you're listening to this on YouTube, put in the comments like what you think, how you see this, where you fall on the spectrum of ways to believe about people and God. I guess your part for me is just really personal. Like, for me personally, I love thinking about how much bigger God is and how much more in control God is. Because if I'm in control, I'm actually kind of scared of it. And I'm kind of nervous about it. And I don't think I have any kind of wacky views about God. I don't think I'm falling into false teaching or anything. I just think I find a lot of comfort in knowing that God is so much bigger than everything around me that seems important or imposing or challenging. And I think that it's no mistake that kind of this comforting section of Isaiah is starting out with that concept that, like, hey, God is huge and God is in control and you can trust him. Because the remaining couple of chapters that we read then look forward to what life will be like with God ultimately in control. And spoiler alert, like, that is still what we look forward to. Like, it will be amazing. And we do believe that Jesus will return. Jesus will rule and reign. And that will be incredible. We will be in a time of peace where every high place is knocked down, where every low place is raised up, where there is a straight path in the wilderness, like John the Baptist and Isaiah say.
Thank you.
Extra credit from today. But I just think I encourage you to find hope in the fact that God is much bigger than everything around you. And actually spend some time thinking about that and talk to God about it and, determine what you think about it. So we'll be back again tomorrow in Isaiah again. Surprise, surprise. See you then. Thanks so much for listening to God's Plan, Your Part. If anything stuck out to you, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to receive a Bible, you can email us at godsplanyourpart@gmail.com. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us through the link in our description. We love that you're on this journey with us, and we hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow.